Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about indoor cats. Cats that are allowed outdoors experience life in a way their ancestors lived. The animal also gains a large amount of confidence. Indoor cats live longer because they catch fewer diseases and parasites. Beyond longevity, outdoor cats get injured more frequently. Outdoor cat owners will tell you they've had their cats come home with chunks of their skin missing or injured eyeballs from getting into fights with other animals. Unfortunately, they're more likely to contract feline leukemia virus and feline immunodeficiency virus. An outdoor cat may also bring pests home with them, such as fleas, or something far worse, such as toxoplasmosis, which will make you crazy. Bored cats can be real troublemakers. They might chew on wires, scratch furniture or humans, and can even act aggressive. When a cat gets to use their brains and bodies to chase, tackle, and squirm, they're a lot happier. But to the outside's credit, the outdoors is a very enriching spot for cats. There are sounds, smells, and scurrying animals, an absolute paradise for play and predatory activities. It makes sense why so many cat owners let their cats go outside despite expert advice.
Hold it. That's where I was going with this. When we grew up, all the people we knew didn't even have litter box. They let their cats, when the cats had to go to the bathroom, they would jump on the door or meow. They let them out, and the cat might come back 6 hours later. But nowadays, people get their cats declawed, and then
you setting that cat up for failure, dude.
I knew people that let the cats have the back claws so they could climb a tree if they needed to, but they didn't want them to fuck up their furniture. But this is so funny because, like I said, the people I grew up with didn't even have litter boxes. They just let the cat would tell them like, "Hey, I got to go outside." And sometimes the cat would come back 2 hours later. Sometimes the cat come back 6 hours later. And those cats were those were like tame alley cats. That's what those were. These are alley cats that basically had a home and a regular meal. But they would go out, they would fuck, fight, flee, or whatever the hell they do. I remember across the street, them people, they had two cats. And the female cat was pinned in a corner by these two like doxies, these two dogs. And the male cat showed up, jumped on that dog's back and rode that dog like damn near half a block away, and then jumped off and walked home like nothing happened. It was like some shit you would see on TV. Little dog had the female cat just because there was like a little ledge in front of the picture window. You know what I'm talking about? And the cat's sitting there, and so yeah, these cats that we grew up with,
they were roguish.
Motherfucker would fuck some shit up. I remember Herman, the lady used to babysit me, had a black cat named Herman. This motherfucker would do a backflip, like no shit, 8 feet in the air and grab a butterfly. Just do a backflip and grab a bird, and sometimes let it go, sometimes eat it. You just didn't know. Whatever mood he was in, he's like, you know what? You smell delicious. You ain't gonna make it.
Dude, cats kill millions of birds every year. They are killers. They are tiny tigers and lions.
Don't get it twisted. Yes, they have a wild ancestry that craves meat.
That primal nature is still inside them. Let me just stop this full stop right now. The whole reason why we're talking about cats is not because we're going to have a show dedicated to pets.
I know.
Do not get it twisted, okay?
No. This
is
about how you're supposed
episode is about how the modern man has fallen the fuck off. So, for example,
this is a reality.
Check it out. I was working on a job recently, and I was working with this cat, and we're roughly the same age. And he was telling me that most of the young guys that he hires, they don't work out, or he has to fire them because
they're pussies.
They don't have grit. They don't stick to anything. They quit easy.
No, you're missing one most important thing. They don't want to be there in the first place. I say this at work because I work in a different environment. And I tell people the biggest problem we got right now is every white boy that gets hired thinks he's going to be the CEO. And when I explain it to people, they get offended because I say white boy. I said, no, women don't have this. Unless say their family works for the same company I work for, they want to be a director or maybe a VP. But these white boys, they get hired off the street, have no background in this industry. They all think they're going to be CEO. It's 43,000 employees here. You think that you're going to be the CEO. And this goes back to what you're saying. that motherfucker don't want to do what you're doing. You know, like they can't find another job someplace else. So instead of them immersing themselves and becoming the best at what you do, and then going someplace else, or no, they're like, okay, I'm gonna half-ass do this because it's beneath me, and that's that bullshit.
The cat that I was talking about mostly young black dudes.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's young men. So check this out. So
yeah, agreed.
this work requires mental toughness. And, people can draw correlations to Hell Week and Special Forces training and all this nonsense, Green Beret, all that. Listen, man, you have to, but it's mental toughness. Like, they will ask you to do crazy things, in these Special Forces trainings thing. They require a lot of you physically. But you have to understand that your body does what your mind tells you to do.
It, yes. Bruce Lee even said that. He never says, I can't do it, because your body don't know the difference. And once you make up in your mind you can't do something,
now,
your body's going to follow.
I will say this. As you get older, there is a urge to think about things more. Now, that applies for other parts of your life. When physical prowess is demanded, that is not allowed. You have to act.
The other deep thing you kind of mentioned, Roscoe, you kind of glanced over. You talk about Special Forces, Hell Week. Those guys want to do that. These guys don't want to do what's in front of them.
Okay.
They just think that they're blessed with success. Like, oh, I can do anything. But you know what? There's a part of them where they set themselves up for failure by not applying themselves. And so when they fail at something, they're like, well, I didn't try that hard anyway. And it's that bullshit excuse. And once you recognize that these motherfuckers ain't made like us. Our parents made us tough. Our parents made us go outside. We were them cats you talking about.
Yes, remember? But check this out. But also, part of that was on us. Our parents only did so much because the sense of adventure came from within.
Yes, yours.
And so
but
the
my mom
idea...
said we couldn't come inside in the air conditioning. My mom, like, nah, y'all don't need to be in the air conditioning.
Right, dude, but listen, but when I first started my paper route, it was a bag of papers that I put on my shoulder. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we carried it.
And that was probably 30, 40 pounds.
35 pounds. I was about to say the same thing.
And Sunday papers... So the deal is this, man, is that ignited something in my mind. That ignited this, I'm going to call it the primal ingredient, the primal man, primal ancestry.
No, that's an X factor where once you decided, like, I'm going to complete this task.
Yes.
I know it's difficult. And
I didn't think about how difficult it was. Now, there were parts of it that were difficult. When I'm on a bike and I got to, for those of y'all don't know, Omaha, we got some hills for your ass. And
they say it's the Great Plains. Nigga, you alive.
That's far from Omaha. That's outside the city. Because where we live is all hills. And especially the street next to your old house was damn like some shit out of San Francisco.
Yeah. Like, how many people did we see fuck themselves up coming down on a bike? I remember
there was a girl that died, rest in peace, because of that. But this is my thing. So there were times when I was a little boy and I was met with the challenge. And then there was a half a second in my mind and it was like, do you accept the challenge? And I'm like, I accept the challenge. And I fucking pedaled up this steep ass hill with those fucking newspapers on my back.
But you had the dopest, but just for the record, he had the dopest bike in Omaha.
Sigma.
The Sigma. But hold on. We always use different motivation to make ourselves complete shit. Like, for me, what I would use is my ancestors. I know this sounds so bad. Like, okay, so my ancestors were slaves. They didn't get it. They didn't get a break. You don't deserve a break. Finish what you're doing. And my mom would send me out there. Remember, I had to cut them hedges, or I had to cut the grass, or I had to do this. My dog kept getting out. I had to plug the fence so the dog. Whatever the challenge was, it didn't matter how hot it was. Whatever,
okay, but
I had to
right. But then there's always older people that will try to say, "Oh, you can't do it. You can't make it." You know what I'm saying? And I'm always the one to be like, "I'm your Huckleberry." Like, motherfucker, you want to challenge me physically? You'll lose every time.
But them niggas was trying to motivate us. Yeah, very rarely do they really think that we couldn't do shit. They just simply, when you were done, they would simply tell you, "You doing it is up to you." That was up to you.
But see, and then what happened is, by completing these tasks, you earn the respect, dude.
Yes. Yeah.
With this paper route, I earned the respect of my community.
It was a merit badge. You got merit.
I was in 7th grade, and Fontaine, all the rest of them were on the bus and they were going to football practice. And he told me this shit the next day. He was like, man, we saw you in your bike delivering your papers. And they said some shit like, he got the papers, like that Biz Markie song. He got the papers. But if you listen to that song is about the dudes that Biz Markie talks about in the song. They're not bums. They're guys that are on their hustle and they on the come up.
Nigga, please, you work for UPS.
Yeah.
But what it is that they're talking about you not being fly, but you're on your way to being fly.
Mm-hmm.
And until you understand that this is just part of it, nigga, please, you work for UPS. That's how that shit was. Like, look, no, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm getting there. I'm going to be a celebrity. I'm going to be a star. Just make sure you keep that same energy when I get there, because you said I wasn't going to be shit.
In my life, I knew always that no matter what I was striving for in my life, whatever I continue to strive for, my drive and my natural ability is something that I don't have to question, because I'm always in contact with my inner being. Always checking in and making sure that everything is still running, that the lights are on, you know what I'm saying? And metaphorically, the bills are paid.
Look, we just had this talk 4 days ago. As a human being, it's been proven the way we evolve, the way we get better is by going through crazy fucked up shit. And I've always said, or well, we said together, is that the reason black folks are so strong is not because we're the original person, it's because of slavery, because of the fucked up way you treated us. You literally treated us like shit.
But watch this though. But see, yes, and then that's in your genes. But the problem is that there has been purposeful intrusions into the solidarity of who we are. But I want to say this first: the struggle for growth is an inherent part of life and even helpful for growth. But nobody wakes up in the morning, crosses their fingers and says, man, I hope I really struggle today. You know what I'm saying?
Look. It's been proven. Do your research on what makes your human growth hormone more prevalent. What makes your testosterone more prevalent? These different situations. One of the situations we just talked about was ice baths. These athletes who take ice baths after they work out, they're counterproductive. 1993, Japanese scientist proves that if you take an ice bath before you work out, you increase your testosterone and human growth hormone. It by like 20%, like some crazy number. It was so bad. What this guy recently did, he practiced it. This white dude, and they swore he was on TRT. They looked at his numbers. He had like 10,000 whatever, and they said you got to be like, nope. I'm never taken any. I've just done the ice bath every morning before I work out. Shit like that. Which means it lets you know that if you literally are freezing, if your body is freezing, it's going to respond in a way to make you successful. Cold showers, we talked about, makes you more intelligent. It literally makes your brain create new neural pathways and shit like that. Same thing with the lion's mane mushroom, more cognitive skills. So literally, if you go through a difficult life, you will emerge. Look at these motherfuckers coming from Dagestan right now. These motherfuckers, they're killers. That's because they had a shitty life, and so they're stronger. And the only thing I heard Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's like this fighter, is undefeated fighter. He's like, look, he said, you need 2 hours of sleep. You work out for 3 hours, you sleep for 2 hours. Then you work out for another 3. The biggest thing he said is that you need to sleep between that time. Now, if you over there and you ain't got no cell phone, you ain't got shit to do, then you can get that rest and recuperation. But the point I'm trying to make is the correlation to cats. When you have a cat and that cat is on its own, it's going to go into its it's going to go into its natural instincts, its natural abilities. And so that's how you are as a person, is that we got too many fucking luxuries. And so like people literally talk about our ancestors and how they survived without this. Look, these people were super intelligent. That's another thing, because we love to think that we're smarter than our ancestors. That ain't the case. Our ancestors had a mastery of this physical realm that we didn't understand, whether they were physical specimens or whether they were in pyramids, whatever the fuck they were doing. They understand this physical realm much better than we do. We have these megabytes and these computers that save shit, and we think that's the pinnacle of technology, and obviously it's not, because we can't recreate what they did in the past. So you got to understand that exposing yourself, getting that vitamin D from the sunlight, working out in the heat, not using air conditioning, challenging yourself sometimes.
Dude,
That's what we used to do.
no, that's what I do. There have been jobs that I've had throughout my adult life where I have been exposed to the elements. The very first job that I had exposed me to the elements. It exposed me to the extreme heat and extreme cold. And throughout my entire life, I would always revisit these jobs. I've had office jobs. I've been indoors with beautiful women and lots of food to eat. And then I went back to working outdoors again because I liked it a lot more because it connects me to my ancestors. It's a
Keeps
more
you in shape, makes you
it
stronger.
keeps you in shape, but it also connects you to the world that you live in. Like when you're outside and it starts raining, that's a connection to the cycle of replenishment in our atmosphere. And when you're working outside and you feel like it getting colder outside, you feel the temperature drop, that is a connection to the barometric pressure and the skin cells or the skin on your body and how you can feel that difference and what these small micro mechanics are happening and doing inside your body and the effect that they have on your awareness. That increases your greater awareness. But you can even see it in the insect world. A man found a cocoon of a butterfly, and one day a small opening appeared. He sat and watched the butterfly for several hours as it struggled to force its body through that little hole. Then it seemed to stop making any progress. It appeared as if it had gotten as far as it could, and it could go no further. Then the man decided to help the butterfly, so he took a pair of scissors and snipped off the remaining bit of the cocoon. The butterfly then emerged easily, but it had a swollen body and small, shriveled wings. The man continued to watch the butterfly because he expected that at any moment the wings would enlarge and expand to be able to support the body, which would contract in time. But it didn't happen. In fact, the butterfly spent the rest of his life crawling on the ground with a swollen body and shriveled wings. It was never able to fly.
He didn't need help.
What the man, in his kindness and haste, did not understand was that the restricting cocoon and the struggle required for the butterfly to get through it, the tiny opening, were God's way of forcing fluid from the body of the butterfly into its wings so that it would be ready for a flight once it achieved its freedom from the cocoon. Sometimes struggles are exactly what we need in our life. If God allowed us to go through our life without any obstacles, it would cripple us. We would not be as strong as what we could have been, and we could never fly.
Look, this is my personal opinion. So if people get trigger warning, look, I think people are way too fucking soft on these kids. The bottom line is we understand you love your kids, but the thing is you're preparing children for this world. So spanking them is not a bad thing. Discipline and abuse is not the same thing. You need to make sure you understand that. Make them go through something. So when they get to be older, they can go through the challenges they have waiting for them. I got two sets of kids. I got one set that kind of had it easy. And I got one set that I was allowed to make difficult. And the ones that were made difficult ain't the ones that call me every day asking for shit. I know that's a fucked up thing to say. So deal with it. The bottom line is that our parents, like I said, my mom wouldn't let us in the house. It was if it was 101, me and you
go to the water holes on the side of the house. You turn that motherfucker on, and you know what? Here's $1. Go to the swimming pool.
we went to Gallagher Pool. So if it's under 101, we pretty much had to figure it out. And here's the bad part: like me and you, we were in grade school. We were in the portables at one point. You was in the high class, I was in the low class, and brand whatever. And they had air conditioning in the portables, but they still let the whole school out because back then they didn't have air conditioning in the main building.
Yeah, so the portables, man, that shit was nice.
They were awesome. And so, portables are just what they sound like. They're basically like little trailer homes for classrooms.
Girl, I just remember after third grade going to the fourth grade in Miss Levison's class, bro, and I was just miserable and like in the.
We had Miss Case and we were in the portable. We were chilling. All these why they leaving school early? We didn't give a fuck.
Like the whole experience with Miss Cason was just pleasant. And what's crazy is
Say
that
it,
Miss
say it.
Levinson, it was like she was built for that building because because like we get her to her class and like, it's nothing like this opulent luxury that we were experiencing in this AC, separated from the rest of the school. And then she's in there with her old country ass hands like catcher's mitts, this leathery, rough ass fucking hands. And it's almost like we are now on this plantation and we learn it's like, fuck, I hate this shit.
Hold it. See, you left out the most important part. Everybody told us how mean Miss Casey was and how evil she was, and we would hate her.
But she wasn't mean. She wasn't. Well, no, Miss Casey wasn't mean. If anything, Miss Levinson was more strict. She wasn't mean either. She was just more strict than Miss Casey was.
Look. You remember people say, "Hey, man, they put a tack in her seat and all that kinds of shit." Miss Casey, Miss Casey, and I told you, I saw her before she died. I saw her at TJ Maxx before she died. And look, I'm just trying to tell you that everybody told us we would hate her. We had a great time. Mm-hmm. She encouraged her. I remember one time I was supposed to be doing this presentation, and I was looking at the globe trying to find where, because my uncle was stationed in Honduras, and so I was supposed to get up in front of the class and do something, and I was ignoring her. She's like, "Honduras boy, get up here." I'm like, "Oh, you mean me?" Like she was as sarcastic and encouraging at the same time, same way we are.
She was an old school broad.
Yeah, and so look, what we're trying to tell y'all, like literally, our parents made us smart, tough, and whatever. And then, like my brother's telling you, Ross was telling you, our spirit of adventure took over, and we made sure we didn't waste that time. That's the best way I can describe it.
But I can tell you one thing though, man. Video games killed productivity because I saw it starting to happen though. And when Nintendo came out, I could see it. I'm like, all right, this is cool, but I'm going outside. Y'all motherfuckers have been in here for 3 hours. Fuck this.
It was an excuse to be weak. And I'm look, any of y'all who's listened to the story before, you know what story I'm talking about. I was at a friend's house, stay down the street from Roscoe. A nigga I knew, but I usually didn't kick it with. I'm at his house. We're playing Ghosts and Goblins. The game was kind of boring to me, and I'm like, I want to go outside and kick it. So I leave, go outside and kick it. I get home. His father says I stole the game and tries to come down and force my mom to let him in and look for the game. Now, my mom, I'm sitting there on the steps. My mom asked me, "Do you have his game?" No, I said, "Mom, they were playing that shit when I left." She's like, "No, you can't come in." And so this dude tries to force his way to the house. My mom says, "Look, if you do this, it's going to be the last thing you do," because my mom had a shotgun right there by the door. So she explained to her, like, "Look,
that's some bullshit. You going to force your way up in somebody's house, bro?"
Hey, because they were uppity niggas. They always looked down. We all lived in the same neighborhood, but they looked down. I shouldn't say they. Let me clear this up. He had a great wife, and the kid was a dork. 2 kids were, but he looked down on everybody else as if to say, "I'm the superior black person. I've made it farther than everybody else." He had that mentality. And so my mom's like, "No, I pay the bills here. This is my house. And if you come in here, I promise you, you won't do shit else." And she asked him, "Was the game worth it?" Is what she asked him. Is that video game worth what you... Now, of course, when they found it, his wife made him come down and apologize. My mom said she didn't want your apology kind of thing. But the point being is that, like I said, you spotted right away that this video games would be a problem. But see, the way
because it required electricity. And I'm looking at this shit, I'm like, you got to be indoors. You got to have air conditioning and heat. I can go outside. Dog, this is a trap. This is a fucking trap, dog.
But see, I looked at it the way we did.
Nintendo was the first one we had.
Even then, my mom would make us go outside. Like after a while, like, "Hey, y'all need to go outside." Like literally, she said, "Y'all need to go outside." Like, if we don't go outside, we'll die.
Yeah. Like, if you don't keep moving, you're going to die.
Yeah, you get outside right away. What happened? We get outside, ain't nothing there. Like, "Hey, Ma." She locked the door behind.
Got you. But see, also, I saw it as an imagination killer.
Oh, see, hold it. See, that's where I was going with it, because when we had Atari, I remember having a spaceship that was a triangle. See, y'all niggas that grew up on Nintendo, you don't know what the struggle was like for us in Atari days. Atari, you would play football, and I remember playing the spaceship game, and my mom was such an asshole. And I said, "Hey, that's my spaceship." My mom said, "No, that's a triangle." I said, "No, that's a spaceship." And she's like, "Nah, nigga, that's a triangle."
See, I agree with your mom, because to me, an Atari felt like a hustle. And Atari, to me, felt like an idea that wasn't finished. I'm like, this is all right, but we're not there yet. And so then when 8-bit came out, I was, okay, I can fuck with this.
Yeah. Which again, you were ahead of the curve. You had Sega.
Sega,
like,
yeah.
hey,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. you were like the master. You were like, look,
They had
this is from
Shinobi
Japan.
in fucking space area. Yep.
No, but the thing. Oh no, no. Altered Beast was a shit though. But
That
hold
was
it.
that was Genesis. Yeah.
Yeah. So your whole thing was you were into what was in Japan, and
Yes,
so
big time,
so
big
so
time.
so you were a little like, hey man, when these new games come out. It ain't gonna be like no triangles and squares and shit, nigga. You ain't gonna be doing this Pong shit. I'm like, yeah,
It's gonna
whatever.
be like the arcade at your house.
Yeah. So, like I said, the point being is that, like, our parents made us go outside. Our parents were like, hey, you don't need to be in the house as much, or hey, this, that, and the other. And so, but they were breeding adults. Our parents were not raising children. That's where y'all get the shit confused. They were raising us to be adults. See, motherfuckers nowadays, they're making you weak. They're buying you Jordans. They're giving you this
The
shit. And they feel,
dependency. It's
yes, it's a dependency on something. And that's what you don't understand. It might not be the parents. It might be a dependency on the government. It might be a dependency on the education system. But that right there is a fucking weakness. Look, I didn't fuck up at your house. You know why? Because I didn't want to spank it. I knew your dad wouldn't do it. But if I knew that if I fucked up enough, so I don't fuck up hey, when I was at your house, it was like me being at home. I acted the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
okay,
knew
but see, the same thing is okay. So you and I understood something about our both of our parents. It's like I didn't want to piss off your mom because I liked your mom when she wasn't yelling at you. I liked your mom when she was cool. I'm not gonna say your mom was nice. I'm gonna say your mom was cool.
there's a difference.
Yeah, your mom wasn't nice. Your mom was cool, and what I mean by that is she wasn't yelling at us. She didn't hit us, you know what I'm saying, unless
But she had,
unless you deserved it, you know what I'm saying.
yeah,
But
but she had expectations of you. Like,
yes,
look, you better do this shit, nigga.
yeah, but she allowed us freedom, a certain
Yeah.
amount of freedom. Like all right, you can play in the basement. All right, you can go outside. You know, we always played in the basement. We never played in your room because your room just was your room. But the basement was like a fucking free zone and
Whatever,
shit.
whatever we wanted. Building spaceships out of furniture, nigga.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly, exactly.
she
And
she
then,
had took us to the. Remember, she took us to the circus, and we get back, and we made a fucking
dude,
whatever the
but
fuck
y'all
we made.
you guys don't know, but like his basement was dope because um, it had the '80s wooden paneling on the walls.
And the
Um,
furniture was made of
and
plywood.
no, the furniture was fucking. It was weird. It was leather and plaid at the same time. It was weird. I don't know what I never. I kind of
Seen anything
question your
like
mom's
that?
taste in that fucking basement furniture, but I was like, whatever the fuck, man. But this is when cable was like just like taking off, so we would watch all types of shit like TNT groovy movies and fucking all the
No,
sci-fi from the '70s that are playing
I,
on the
I
'80s
remember
now.
you had the Disney Channel before anybody, and I remember like watching like that was like the Cartoon Network before the Cartoon Network, and you watch the Disney Channel and like this shit is deep. Like you had Dobie Gillis, you had these old shows. You like
It was
that.
okay, but to me, in my opinion, like, WGN was way
Oh,
better.
Chicago.
You know what I'm
Oh yeah.
saying?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
look,
because they played the shit that we wanted to watch until
look.
until what's the name Thundercats came out, and then that was on like fucking like regular TV.
Yeah. Well, hold it. He-Man was first.
Yep.
He-Man. Okay, you had three things that raised us. Transformers hit first because it was on the Bozo show.
Nope.
Then all of a sudden,
No. 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 It went like this. It was He-Man, and then it was the first GI Joe movie that they split up into 5 episodes, and then they saw how productive or how popular GI Joe was, and then they came with Transformers the year after that.
I thought it was the opposite because I
No,
remember watching Transformers
Transformers
on.
is '84.
Okay, but I remember seeing it on the Bozo show first. Remember,
Mm-hmm.
and
That was
they do little
1984.
snippets.
Yeah.
There was little snippets, and so you. But I remember when He-Man and Transform and excuse me GI Joe hit, and you was like, "This is amazing. What the fuck is this?
Yes.
Who who are you? Get out of my
Yes,
head."
because they're presenting these concepts that number one, that the storytelling was immense. And, the payoff was so profound because you went on this journey and you learn these things, but the payoff was so cool because you see how this team came together and, thwarted these reptilian based,
Hey,
terrorists and
dude,
shit.
that shit was ahead of its time because now we're talking about reptilians. They're underground. We're talking about reptilians. Cobra
Yeah,
Mai
this show was science fiction, but it was 100% predicting
science
the
fact.
future. Yeah.
Look, I'm gonna say this. Like, I remember when I learned that people were full of shit and that this whole world was a hustle from your mom. And I'm gonna tell you how I learned it. Your mom never bought dog food. All the dog.
Oh man.
Now hold it.
Never, never,
Hold it.
never.
Your first dog, Benji, had some kibble once or twice, but all your other dogs, they only ate what was left over.
Listen, my
And I
mom
remember, hold
always
it.
gave the dogs
What
table
was
scraps.
and hold it. And I was at somebody's house, and they told me I don't give my dog people food. And I'm thinking about, so what? And this chick explained to me how giving your dog people food can fuck it up, and I'm like, man, don't go tell. Don't go tell Roscoe's mom this because she's a dog murderer, and I'm like, she's not. And then,
But fast forward to 2023, and you have people that cook food just to give to their fucking dogs. Bitch,
your
that's
mom was
just
doing
table
it
scraps.
Your mom was doing it but here's the issue.
But you know what? Here's the thing though. There was a couple times I tried giving my dog some dog food, and he looked at shit like, "Nigga, what is this? Like, where's the fucking steak? Where's the fucking T-bones? You know, where's the pot roast?"
Give me the enchiladas, nigga. Where the enchiladas? Look, the point I'm making is that so much of our world was dictated.
Hold up, what'd you feed Pokey?
Oh, dog food, table scraps.
Okay.
Dog food with table. Well, he got whatever was on sale and some table scraps. But the thing is, the point I'm making that y'all this is for our audience. World War II dictated this world to us. Most of this modern world that we have is based on World War II. Kibble was a cheap way to feed your dog food back when food was being rationed. So you got to understand that was from a time of scarcity, and that I'm not saying the scarcity wasn't real, but those our masters are these elite learn that scarcity drives people. It makes them do this, and this. And so that dog food was scarcity. Like we came up on Henry Huggins in the book. Like, remember Ribsy? Remember he would get that nigga horse meat. He would go to the butcher to get his dog horse meat. That we read those in books, and so that's what I grew up on, was those kind of books like that. And Roscoe's a much better reader than me. Y'all know I can hardly read. But the fact of the matter is that this idea that this kibble is the way to go, and that you can't if you give your dog anything but dog food, they might die. Bullshit. If that was it, because like I said, your mom did not. She never spent money on dogs.
If that's the case, how did dogs make it this far?
This far?
Like, God forbid.
I asked her, look, this is because this is our homeboy's wife at the time. I said, so aren't dogs 36 million years old? But dog food is only 50 years old. What the fuck happened before? As he stared at me, it was old boy's wife, it was B's first wife. And I was like, dude, like, listen to yourself. Listen to what you just said. So dogs before this were what? Fucking cats? I don't get it. They weren't dogs? Like, no. And so that's why this conversation is so important about you putting your cat out. Put yourself out. You're supposed to experience these things. They make you literally stronger physically and mentally. And here's how these so-called intelligentsia motherfuckers get you. They convince you that you're not smart because you do this shit. No. I'm going to give you another example of how intelligentsia convinces you of bullshit, and black folks eat it up. Guns. Smart people don't use guns. Those are for physical brutes. No. The smartest thing you can do is protect yourself. The gun is for you to protect yourself from evil motherfuckers coming to take your rights or your property.
It's called an advantage, bitch.
Yeah, that is technology. So how come you believe in a cell phone, but you don't believe in a semi-automatic weapon? And here's how they get you. Now they're all over Instagram. All these light-skinned black bitches telling you that we need gun control. You don't see dark-skinned bitches say you need gun control. There's always these light-skinned motherfuckers. And I'm like, dude, I shouldn't say that. There are dark-skinned dumb motherfuckers.
Chill with the colorism.
But no, I'm being serious. All these motherfuckers, we don't need these assault rifles, and I've told you them. And I'm like, you serious with this shit? Like, and people love to say this shit from a distance where you can't converse with them. Like, even this white dude, I reached out to him like, hey man, let's have a conversation about this. I'll come on your show. You can make me look stupid, but I need to get my message across. You're wrong. Look, I get it. Guns do bad things, but that's because they're in the hands of people. A gun laying there ain't gonna do shit. But when somebody who's fucked up in the head, and second, whenever you find these situations, it's these white boys that should not have been allowed to have them. But you don't see these black dudes doing the same shit. Or when a black dude was having drive-by shootings at schools, y'all didn't care. But when it got to Middle America, which is what Richard Pryor said, he said, look, drug use was not an epidemic until it came to your neighborhood. When drugs hit the suburbs, then you had a problem with it. But when drugs were in the inner cities, that's how this shit works. Until it becomes a problem for you, it's not a problem at all. And so what I need y'all to understand is that, look, this how my brother presented this, cats on the inside, cats on the outside. You really need to force yourself to go outside and do these things to make yourself stronger. You know, right now you're convinced that you don't need to be stronger. In fact, our kids are so infatuated with TV and bullshit and Kardashians and shit like that, that them motherfuckers, you're showing these people who are not physically strong and not mentally strong, but you're showing them as being successful. So what does that say? What message does that give to our next generation? It gives a message that you don't have to persevere. You just got to be there, and somebody's going to take care of you or discover you or give you some shit.
Check it
or
out.
You make
The process, the struggle, and the grind is real, and at times it feels like it goes on endlessly. Athletes and musicians are no stranger to it, with the never-ending cycles of training and playing shows. So consider these three things. Number one, to struggle is better for performance eventually. Research shows that people who struggle with a problem on their own before receiving assistance actually perform better than people who don't have to struggle on the second time they encounter the problem. So if initial performance is all you care about, struggle isn't going to help you. But if you care about long-term performance, as you should, then your struggle will likely pay off. Researchers call this productive failure. They say fumbling with the problem early on fostered hidden efficacy because it led to a deeper understanding of the problem after struggling with it. What's the takeaway? Focusing exclusively on initial performance is myopic. Struggling trumps ease in the long run.
Check it out. I just saw a short on YouTube by Frank Mir where Frank Mir said, I was a pussy in my 20s. And you're like, what? And he explained, he said, look, in my 20s, he said, this shit came natural to me, this whole fighting shit. And then when I got in there with a real dog, I wanted out. He said, he said, I could show you videos where my whole, I might, even if I won the fight, he said, I might have won the fight, but mentally I wanted to get out of it. I want to be someplace else. But I had a desire to improve. I had a desire to understand. And so that's what drove me to keep going and become a better fighter. But he said, guys broke me. I might have won the fight, but I was broken. I'm like, God, I want to get out. Please. He said, I thought about tap. He talks about this shit. And so what people don't get is that you got to work to get there. And you learn, people tell you, you learn more in a loss than you do in a victory many times. That's a real deal. It's great if you can succeed at everything you do. But some people got fucked up, what's the word? Fucked up goals. Some people desire some fucked up shit. So, like, look, they lower their expectations on purpose because they don't want to struggle. Struggle is what makes us who we are. Struggle is what makes us strong. Struggle is what makes us admirable. What makes you worth following and being a leader and this other shit. But right now, we have a tendency to put people on a pedestal that don't deserve to be there, and that is your biggest mistake. If you ever date somebody, you put that bitch on a pedestal. Cause I talk about women because I'm straight, and she's undeserving of that. She will rip your fucking heart out. But if you find somebody who has that right whatever, like your mom, hardworking, intelligent, beautiful, inside and out, that kind of shit, and you put her on a pedestal, she's going to reward you by making you stronger, making you a better man. That kind of shit. But nobody want to have those conversations anymore. It's all about entertainment. It's all about who you can parade around and show off.
Number two, struggle is a cruel teacher, but a good one.
Good one.
People learn more when they struggle. You probably hate this as much as most people, but it's true. You can see that people struggle at the frustration level when they're in a new position of leadership. And when you make a career pivot to a new industry or making the shift from a traditional corporate work to entrepreneurship, there's indeed a great amount of struggle. There's a huge learning curve, and hence often huge initial frustration in all of these scenarios. Stumbling under the weight of your new duties and feeling frustrated that your Herculean efforts are only getting you feeble results, give it time. You're in a deep learning phase. Number 3, struggle makes you less resistant to trying something new. The frustration that people feel when people struggle with something makes us more open-minded about alternative solutions. Why is that? Struggle is a form of feedback that says what you're doing isn't working.
That's deep. That's feedback.
Yep. Spinning your wheels with a problem and realizing that your attempts to solve it aren't working, and it forces you to try things you probably wouldn't try if things were moving along smoothly. Maybe even things you thought of trying before but didn't want to do. So therefore, struggling forces you to reinvent your approach to the problem in a new way because you have to. Nothing else you've tried has worked yet. And so there's comfort zones. Comfort zones and tried and true solutions are fine when your work is a piece of cake, but the discomfort of struggle eventually forces you to think and do differently.
Look, what I tell my kids, success is a moving target. And sometimes you gotta pivot, like you said, sometimes you gotta change stuff. What the most difficult part is when you should stick with it, not giving up. So the message we learned when we were kids, don't give up. So what I've learned as my time on this earth has improved, that's the hardest part that you got to figure out, when to change and when to stick with it. That's the hardest thing. Some things you got to stick with, and some things you're like, you know what, success is a moving target. This is not the corporation I need to be with. let me go someplace else for more money. Other times, okay, let me stay here and let me get this promotion and move up with the job security. So that's where it gets complicated. Look, sometimes you're dealing with racism, but racism is not the shit that you think. It's not a motherfucker with a white hood on. Sometimes racism is a motherfucker thinking that, you know what, you're not a good fit for this job. And then you're like, but you didn't give me a chance. And the person you hired has less education, less experience. That's when you realize, like, oh, okay, maybe I need to stick with it. Or maybe I need to start my own business, where it's on me, where my success is completely my abilities and not somebody else's image of me. So that struggle, that's that crucible that makes you strong. Steel sharpens steel. We always talk about it. But definitely, sometimes that success might be someplace else with someone else.
But I started off this conversation talking about how there's a generation of young people that don't want to struggle. They avoid struggle at any possible way they can. And these people look for the shortcuts and they want to sneak their way into ascension or positions of high calling. But there's a quote, you've heard it many times, but I'm going to repeat it again, and it's from a book called Those Who Remain, and the author is G. Michael Hoff. The quote goes like this. Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. And weak men create hard times. That is the cycle of change if you look at the history of the entire world, or you can even shrink it to this country. But you had the struggle to solidify your own place in this world, regardless of your race. And that struggle, for black people, that manifested in coming here as an enslaved African, and then being liberated, and then struggling to get your own place, your own plot of land, and then struggling to be respected as a human being, and then struggling to then work inside of this capitalist system in this country, be it whatever your chosen profession. But what happens is, earlier you were talking about slavery has made black people strong. We were strong before slavery. Period. But even after the civil rights era, you had the children of these people and the police violence and harassment that they were dealing with, or the discrimination that they still continue to deal with, even though the civil rights bill had been passed. And so then we reach a point in history where the government, through their moles and their people, they bring crack cocaine into the black community. They tried to bring the black people down with heroin, and they only got so far. They're like, we need something cheaper, faster, and stronger to work better. And they figured out freebasing cocaine and cutting it with cheap chemicals, stepping on the cocaine, can make people easier to control. because they've been co-opted. Their vice has led to a greater oppression.
One of the messages that I recently understand much better now. You remember when I'm gonna get you sucker, and he went to the Black Power movement, and he asked him what happened. He said, "Yeah, they got government jobs and white wives," and we all laughed at that. That was a real thing. Government. We were asking for jobs and we're asking for this, but what they would do is they would give like Jesse Jackson a job. They would give the leader a job, and they would just cut the head off completely. So the two ways they do that is by giving your leader what they wanted, or they would sit here and fuck around and you marry somebody who ain't like you, or you invite different. You had kids, and then all of a sudden you want your kids to be. But like I said, our parents wanted us to be tough. Now these people don't want their kids to be tough. They want their kids to be the vice of their opulence. You dig what I'm saying? Like they want to give their kid everything that they didn't have. Like I didn't have Jordan, so I want my kid to have Jordan. It's great to want your kid to be more successful than you, but the only way they're going to get that is if they have.
Right. The only problem is that we're in this get along to go along society now, and the problem with that is that these same black people are now teaching their kids, you got to be carbon friendly, and you got to do this, and you got to get this done to your body, this procedure, and this and that, so you can keep a job. And like, just do what they tell you, do what they. Hold on now, hold up. Let's not get too house Negro friendly on this bullshit, okay? Because you have to also teach your kids to call bullshit, and how if you really want to teach your kids to be successful is to be an entrepreneur and not to make other people rich, because that model that you're teaching them does not exist anymore about how you can go and get in a job and be in a job for 20 years. That world does not exist anymore. There's nothing at the end of the tunnel.
Pension. Look, once you learn that a 401k is a tax code. The 401k was the biggest hustle at the end of the 80s and beginning of the 90s. They needed people to invest in the stock market, and people couldn't. So they created a tax code called the 401k. And what that does, it takes your money and invests it in the stock market and make these companies richer, and it gives you a little bit of security, just a tiny bit of security. How many of these people have you seen? Oh, my 401k took a hit. That's bullshit. That's the hustle. And then there's penalties if you take the money out. So that's not a pension. That is not what our parents worked these jobs so they would have a pension. They worked shitty utilitarian jobs. My mom worked at the phone company, so she would have a pension. Y'all motherfuckers don't have pensions no more, but they'll give you the 401k. They want you working for the rest of your fucking life, or they want you to die early. So, like I said, if they're going to do this to you, you might as well make yourself as strong as fucking possible. As smart as fucking possible. If you want to be smart, take lion's mane. Don't put that fucking chip in your head that fucking what's his name? Elon Musk. Musk is talking. Yes, we need a chip in our heads. No, you don't. If you sit here and eat the right foods and fast, and you take that lion's mane, you'll be smart as fuck. You'll be a fucking genius. You'll be whipping computers.
You know what's crazy? Right. There's a song that's really popular right now by this white guy. His name is Oliver Anthony. And the song is called Rich Men North of Richmond. And what he's talking about is north of Richmond, Virginia, the next largest city is Washington, D.C. So he's talking about Richmond from Washington, D.C.
Fat cat.
The government. And what he's talking about is how you work your ass off, but the dollar isn't worth anything. And how you're told to do this, you're told to do that. But that's not enough, because now they want to know what you think. They want to control what you think. They want to control what you eat. Then they want to control where you go. They want to control everything about you. Now, this song is not being hyperbolic. You can find instances of everything that he's talking about, whether it's the World Economic Forum or different types of mandates or rules that they want to push on you to get you into this cattle car, this metaphoric cattle car, which is going to drive you into this Agenda 2030 future. And they're going to use things to make you think, oh, well, the green agenda, and this is good, and you got to do this. Well, hold on a second. Wait a minute. So you may not like, Elon Musk, but how is it that a tobacco company, which uses like horrible additives to make you addicted to cigarettes, has a better carbon footprint than
Yes.
a car company that makes electric cars?
Oh my God. Hold it. Here's what he's saying. So you got to have that cobalt for that battery. The carbon footprint. What about the niggas? What about the people with melanin that is killing over in the Congo, losing hands and shit?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how is this any different from?
It's not. It's not.
It's not.
It's not. ESG, environmental social governance, is a bunch of nonsense because even Musk himself, he'll still have this Tourette moment where he speaks truth for a second. He says the S in ESG stands for Satan. You know what I'm saying?
He can't help himself.
Mm-hmm. But they'll do all this, and make you think this is it. This is the way we go. It's like that video you sent me, like these imbeciles, these morons that are in government that are controlling everything, that make you think that they're smart. They're not smart. They're just automaton puppets. I
think it's worse than that. I think they're family. It goes back to what you talk about when the family names, and you always find out these people are related to somebody. Because there's no way in the world George Bush Jr. should ever had a job doing anything. He's an idiot. You see this shit all the time. These guys are fucking morons, and they're running the world.
But here's another thing. When you hear stuff like this crackhead, this white crackhead, has sex with President Obama, what you can't do is pay attention to that because
oh my God, you're smart. I forgot how smart you were.
Because that is weapons of mass distraction. Because at the same time that Trump, be the shithead that he was indicted, it happened around the same time that the Biden scandal was coming out. So they're just trying to cover their tracks for other shit that's going on. And meanwhile, while you're focusing on some crackhead that they got out of a closet somewhere and he failed a lie detection test, you are focusing on that. But meanwhile, there are stories that are running in mainstream news outlets that are talking about how there is engineering of the weather and how it's a normal thing now, and they're normalizing this idea of chemtrails, contrails, and solar control. But yet you want to get caught up in this, housewives of Hollywood bullshit about who was sucking the president's dick and this, that, and the third. You are falling for the banana in the tailpipe. The piccolo player is a motherfucker, and you are falling for all this shit, and you don't understand that there's a real game at play here. And real shit is going on because people are so concerned about UFO disclosure and the slow IV drip that the government's going to give that to you until they finally tell you that there's Nephilim technology involved in this entire operation, and how there's this whole top-down control over the planet Earth from Nephilim, fallen angels, and their offspring. And how people get so caught up in headlines, and you are trusting these people are telling you the truth, and it is not the truth. It is a distraction. It is a narrative.
Look, the headline is more important than the story. But hold it. Let me explain something to you. I'm not saying Barack did or didn't do those things. What I'm trying to tell you is...
I'm telling you, it doesn't matter.
Yes. That's 2 or 3 presidents ago. Why does it matter now? He's not in office anymore. All you're doing is trying to win an argument that's over with. See, I told you, look, but this is what my brother just told you. They're talking about UFOs and all this shit. It's going to take so long for the shit to get out, just the same way that story got out, that it's no longer relevant. They've already taken over. They've already.
Here's the thing: by the time they get full disclosure on UFOs, debauchery in society will have overtaken everything. And that's why you have this proliferation of sex in the media, and why you have all these things, because they want to create a Sodom and Gomorrah society, so that you're not even concerned about any of that anymore, and there's this top-down control by by fallen angels and Nephilim. And you're so caught up in scientism, by the time they tell people this shit, by the time they realize this shit, these go along to get along motherfuckers have chips in their heads, and
it's too late.
It's too late. It's too late. And the bloodline, of man has been once again completely diluted, and God has to flush the toilet.
And watered down. Look, I just had this talk with my nephew. He's doing an internship at a big corporation, and they're taking. I said, look, don't ever drink with him. Oh, I can hold my liquor. No,
that's not what it's about.
Yeah, many times these people just want something on you, and that's how the society is now. Where, like I said, they literally know when you're looking at porn. They
do not give them the advantage.
Yes, don't give them anything on you, because that's how the way they exist right now. And the carbon footprint, one of the things that me and Roscoe talk about.
Hold on. Let me freeze something for a second. I want to say this. Everybody has some type of vice. Some people like porn. Now, here is the thing. Sidebar. Porn was isolated into pockets, meaning when we were
growing up, yeah.
Because you had magazines, because you had VHS tapes, because you had discs and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, these kids will never know what it's like to drive across town just to buy a magazine.
listen. So the deal is that, dude, if you are going to go that route, if you feel like you need porn, go and buy a physical magazine. Go and buy a physical disc, because if you are looking at porn on your phone,
online,
you are creating a paper trail back to you.
They all know who you are, but no,
discretion, motherfucker. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we don't have it any longer. But what I was going to say is, one of the things that drives me crazy is like they want something on you in this society. One of the things we talked about was this whole carbon footprint. I said, well, me and Roscoe were like, isn't melanin carbon? So when you say you want to get rid of carbon footprint, you want to get rid of black people? Is that what you're trying to do? Because carbon footprint is actually part of who I am, my carbon. And why is carbon so bad when there's literally trees that absorb carbon? Here's look this up. The reason Tesla is doing so well is not because of its sales. Do you know why, Roscoe? It's because they're getting paid for their carbon footprint. So they get these tokens that are worth billions of dollars because they allegedly have a low carbon footprint. But then Daimler Chrysler, which is now Stellantis, has a bad footprint, so they got to buy the tokens for some $300 million from Tesla. Some crazy bullshit, so they can cancel out their carbon footprint. They're not getting better. They're playing some kind of hide the banana in the butthole game, and you're buying that shit. So that's just not even real. Tesla is not this great car company that you think it is. It's all bullshit. But the point I'm making is that, why is carbon so bad when carbon is part of diamonds are carbon, coal's carbon, everything's carbon. So all of a sudden, I'm just worried that they're going to say that my carbon footprint's too big and eliminate me one day because I'm too dark. I'm afraid of that shit. The other thing that bugs the fuck out of me is that we have all this pedophilia in Hollywood, but then like people get, like I said, people get confused when it comes to disciplining your child, and we don't want children to be abused and all this other shit. We don't care about kids, or this shit wouldn't be happening. Trump trying to pass those laws that would go after pedophiles, and that shit was, I think it half-ass got passed, but it's been shut down since he's not in office anymore. Look, they don't care about kids. They don't care about them. They only want them for their own illicit activities. And so, but you feel guilty, or you got CPS at your door, or all that shit is a fucking hustle. Because I'll tell you this, I know this for a fact, that whole foster care CPS system is nothing but a breeding ground for these children to be taken to other places. So pay attention. Sex trafficking is part of our government. So they don't give a fuck. They say they do. They make up different stories. They do all this bullshit. Like, you should feel guilty because you didn't buy your kids this, and your kid needs to be vaccinated from that. And if you don't vaccinate your kid, or if you don't respect their kid's sexuality, like, how the fuck does an 8-year-old have sexuality? But what about the impurities in the water, the atrazine? Or what about all the fucking female birth control that's not being taken out the water? So maybe your kid is confused because of the environment. Maybe the fact that you have phthalates in the plastic that are in their water that they're drinking. All this shit can affect your sexuality. But if I don't acknowledge your sexuality in California, CPS can take my child. Bullshit. These are all hustles. Look, Put your kids outside. Make them strong. That is your responsibility, is to make a stronger version of yourself, not a weaker version of yourself. That child is your clone. Fix them. Make them better than you. Don't sit here and permeate the problems you have, your own anxieties. Don't put them on that motherfucker. Please don't. That's all I got, man. I'm sorry.
So, as you can see, we've been talking about how the young men have
And
been
women.
weakened. Yeah, well, mostly young men. We're talking about young men because it's important that we focus on men in this episode because they are fathers and they will be fathers to the next generation. So then, if these little boys that are around right now are coming up soft, then what will their offspring be like?
Mm.
Or will there be a major event that will
It causes them to be strong.
to be strong? Will it be hard times that will make hard men? And the cycle will begin again. So that is something to contemplate because this is the future that we're talking about. Now, of course, at some point, this cycle, it's all cycles, and the cycle will make its full revolution and begin again. But it takes time for this to happen. So in the meantime, you can do your part by not perpetuating bullshit that's being taught to these young people and showing them the way. That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Put your damn kids outside. Holla back.